Most people run from hard work as if it were a punishment. They fear discipline, collapse under pressure, and wonder why life keeps breaking them. But today, we will solve that problem. Today, you'll learn how to rewire your mind so that the work others hate becomes the weapon that makes you unstoppable. Niccolò Machiavelli once observed that men are divided into two groups, those ruled by weakness and those shaped by effort. Hard work is not suffering, it is the crucible where power is forged. In this video, you will discover how to train your brain to not only tolerate hard work, but to enjoy it, crave it, and use it to dominate every field you enter. Let us begin. Most people never rise in life for one simple reason: they misunderstand the nature of hard work. They treat it like a punishment, as if effort is something forced upon them by the world. But a Machiavellian mind sees it differently. Hard work is not a burden, it is a weapon. A weapon that separates the weak from the powerful, the forgotten from the feared. When you learn this, truly understand it, your entire perspective shifts. You stop running from effort and start bending it to your will. Hard work is feared because the mind is trained to interpret effort as pain. But pain is not your enemy. Pain is information. Pain is alertness. Pain is proof that you are stepping beyond the limits that once defined you. Machiavelli wrote that men become significant not through comfort, but through conflict, through tension, through the willingness to endure what others flee from. And this is where your transformation begins. You must change the meaning your mind attaches to effort. Instead of seeing it as suffering, you train yourself to see it as sharpening. Every moment of effort becomes a strike on the whetstone that strengthens your blade. And here is the truth people avoid. The world does not reward talent alone. It does not reward intelligence alone. The world rewards endurance, because endurance is predictable, consistent, controllable. Endurance builds empires. The ruler who works when others rest gains the advantage no fortune can buy. This is why you must reshape your mindset so deeply that hard work doesn't feel like something you have to do, but something you get to use. Think of effort as your private currency. Every morning, you wake up with a choice. You can spend your energy on distraction, on comfort, on procrastination, or you can invest it into the foundations of your future power. When you choose effort, you are buying something others cannot see yet: respect, reputation, leverage. But your brain will always resist at first. It is wired to avoid anything that feels like struggle. This is why ordinary people stay ordinary. They obey that resistance. But you must learn to override it. When your mind says stop, you push a little further. When your body says enough, you demand one more step. Not because you want to torture yourself, but because every time you cross your former limit, something inside you changes. You feel yourself becoming stronger, more capable, more dangerous. And that feeling of becoming something more than you were yesterday is addictive. That is how you begin to enjoy hard work. Not because it becomes easy, but because you recognize the power it creates. Hard work also isolates you from weak men. They cannot follow you where you are going. They do not understand why you stay late, why you sacrifice comfort, why you choose difficulty when ease is available. But this isolation is not a loss. It is protection. It shields you from mediocrity, from distraction, from the noise of people who have never demanded greatness from themselves. And as you rise, you start to appreciate the clarity that effort brings. Hard work strips away illusions. It exposes your weaknesses, but it also reveals your strength. When you train your brain to see effort as a tool of domination rather than a punishment to escape from, something profound happens inside you. Your actions stop depending on mood, motivation, or convenience. They are guided by purpose, by strategy, by the understanding that the world belongs to those who are willing to do what others refuse to do. If you want to train your brain to enjoy hard work, you must link every ounce of effort to something far deeper than productivity. You must tie it to power. The human mind is not motivated by work itself. It is motivated by what work represents. Most people fail because they see effort as a duty, a responsibility, a necessary suffering. But a Machiavellian mind sees effort as a pathway to dominance. When your brain realizes that each hour of work builds your influence, your confidence, your status, and your control over your own life, something inside you shifts. You no longer work because you have to. You work because every action makes you stronger. Understand something vital: people endure anything if it leads to something they desire. There are men who will fight through storms, hunger, sleepless nights, and endless pressure, not because they love the pain, but because they love what the pain will give them. When you attach your work to personal power, your relationship with effort transforms. Suddenly, the fatigue becomes meaningful, the grind becomes purposeful, the discipline becomes a weapon you sharpen every day. By connecting work to your rise, you give your brain a reason to crave what others avoid. Imagine waking up each morning with a clear vision of what your effort is building. Not a vague dream, but a concrete image of the power you are crafting. Every page you read, every skill you refine, every hour you push beyond comfort becomes a stone added to the fortress of your future. And when you build your fortress brick by brick, your mind begins to see hard work not as suffering, but as construction. You start to enjoy the process because you see it shaping something within you: authority, mastery, control. Look at those who are admired, respected, or feared in this world. None of them reached power through comfort. They reached it by tying their identity to discipline. They made effort a reflection of who they are. When others looked for shortcuts, they looked for growth. When others asked for ease, they asked for challenge. And this is the mindset you must embrace. You must convince your brain that every difficult task is another step toward the life you want. Power responds to those who earn it, and the only thing that earns it is relentless work. Your brain is a reward-driven machine. It moves toward whatever boosts your self-image. So create an association so strong that every moment of effort feeds your pride. When you push through resistance, when you choose discipline over distraction, when you sit down to build instead of wasting time, you must feel like you are stepping into your highest self. This is not ego. This is psychological engineering. Machiavelli understood that men are driven by ego far more than logic. If you want your brain to enjoy hard work, you must use that ego as fuel rather than letting it rot in laziness. Think about the alternative. When you avoid effort, when you procrastinate, when you let fear dictate your actions, you lose power. You lose opportunities. You lose respect for yourself. Weakness becomes your identity, and you begin seeing yourself as someone who cannot handle pressure. That alone should terrify you, because if you do not control yourself, the world will, and the world has no mercy for those who lack discipline. But when your effort becomes synonymous with your personal empire, when you see every bit of work as a step toward ruling your own destiny, you begin to seek out challenges. You become addicted to progress. You start to enjoy the feeling of becoming better, sharper, faster, more capable. This internal shift is what makes you rise above ordinary men. They chase comfort, you chase power, because you have trained your brain to understand that work is not just work. It is the road to authority, influence, and self-mastery. If you want to rewire your brain to enjoy hard work, you must first understand how your mind chooses what to repeat. Your brain is not loyal to what is good for you, it is loyal to whatever you reward. Most people never realize this. They think their habits are destiny, that their laziness is a personality trait, that their lack of discipline is some kind of cosmic curse. It is none of that. It is simply the result of years spent rewarding weakness. Every time someone avoids discomfort and gives themselves an emotional reward, rest, entertainment, comfort, distraction, they teach their brain that escaping effort is the right choice. Their brain learns to protect them from growth, not encourage it. A Machiavellian mind must operate differently. You must become your own strategist, your own ruler, your own trainer. You must control the reward system in your mind the same way a prince controls the morale of his army. When your mind chooses discipline, when it chooses effort, when it chooses the path of strength, you give yourself a small victory. Not a physical reward, not self-indulgence, but recognition. A moment of internal acknowledgement that says, "This is who I am now." And when you fail, when you choose comfort over progress, you give yourself nothing. You do not celebrate it, justify it, or soothe it. You let the discomfort sit. You allow your mind to feel the dissatisfaction of betraying your own potential. Your brain follows emotional signals. If you reward discipline with a feeling of pride and reward laziness with silence, your mind will begin to shift. It will start craving the choices that make you feel powerful. That is how soldiers are trained. That is how athletes are forged. The work becomes associated with victory, confidence, pride, identity. And once that connection forms, the mind becomes hungry for the very effort it used to avoid. Think about the way you speak to yourself after doing something difficult. Most people finish a hard task and immediately move on, barely noticing the effort. But when they skip the task or take the easy way out, they comfort themselves with excuses. They reward their weakness with stories, explanations, and emotional softness. Every excuse is a reward. Every justification is a reward. And every reward strengthens the habit of retreat. You must do the opposite. When you complete a difficult task, celebrate internally. Tell yourself, this is strength. When you overcome a distraction, remind yourself, this is dominance. When you push past resistance, feel the internal surge of pride that only comes from self-mastery. This emotional acknowledgement is powerful. It communicates to your brain that discipline is not a chore, not a punishment, not something to tolerate. It is proof of your superiority over your former self. This is how you become addicted to progress. Your brain is constantly observing you. It watches the choices you make, the patterns you repeat, the emotions you attach to those patterns. If you let your brain associate work with pain and comfort with reward, it will always choose weakness. But if you flip the script, if you train your mind to see discipline as the path to strength and laziness as the path to regret, your behavior changes automatically. Not because you force it, but because your brain begins pulling you toward the habits that elevate you. This is not about perfection. It is about training. It is about making the mind believe that hard work is the source of your pride, your identity, your rising power. When your brain understands that discipline makes you formidable, it begins to crave the feeling. It begins to hunger for the choice that puts you in control. Because nothing is more satisfying, nothing is more addictive then watching yourself become the person you once thought you could only pretend to be. Hard work feels painful to most people, not because the work is impossible, but because the discomfort is unfamiliar. The mind rejects anything that interrupts ease. It reacts to challenge the same way it reacts to danger. But a Machiavellian mind cannot operate under such softness. You must train your brain to treat discomfort not as an enemy, but as a companion that walks beside you. Pain is only fear when it is unknown. The moment you become familiar with it, the moment you expose yourself to it repeatedly, it loses its power to intimidate you. And this is where strength begins. Think about the first time you entered a cold room, lifted a heavy weight, forced yourself to wake up earlier than usual. Your mind resisted, your body complained, everything inside you shouted for relief. But then the second time, the resistance was a little lower. The third time, your body recognized the sensation. The fourth time, the discomfort became something predictable. And by the 10th time, the same thing that once felt unbearable became something you could move through without fear. This is how the mind adapts. It is not built for avoidance. It is built for familiarity. Machiavelli understood that a leader's power comes from the ability to remain composed in situations that overwhelm lesser men. A prince must be comfortable in chaos, calm in storms, steady in conflict. But you cannot reach that level of strength by living inside comfort. You reach it by stepping deliberately into spaces that challenge you. When you repeat exposure to discomfort, your mind slowly rewrites its relationship with pain. It no longer sees effort as punishment. It begins to interpret it as growth. The truth is, most people's suffering comes not from the hard work itself, but from the shock of encountering discomfort they have never trained for. They break mentally not because the task is too heavy, but because their threshold is too low. They have spent so much of their life avoiding strain that even the mildest pressure feels overwhelming. But when you train yourself daily to embrace discomfort, even in small ways, you build a psychological armor that makes you resilient. You wake up earlier than you want to. You train your body when it feels easier to rest. You study when your mind wants distraction. These small acts accumulate. They turn your tolerance for discomfort into a weapon. There comes a point where pain becomes familiar. You no longer fear the burn in your muscles, the pressure on your mind, the weight on your shoulders. Instead, you start to recognize it as a signal that you are exactly where you need to be. And when your mind reaches this state, you become dangerous. Because the man who is comfortable with discomfort is almost impossible to break. He keeps going when others crumble. He adapts when others retreat. He grows where others collapse. Discomfort becomes your silent ally. It teaches you discipline. It exposes your weaknesses so you can correct them. It conditions your mind to remain calm under stress. And it creates a psychological gap between you and people who run at the first sign of difficulty. That gap becomes advantage. It becomes opportunity. It becomes the reason you rise while others remain trapped in their softness. Eventually, what once terrified you becomes routine. The cold becomes refreshing. The pressure becomes motivating. The grind becomes grounding. You start to crave the feeling because your mind now associates it with progress. Pain becomes a familiar signal that you are expanding your capacity, sharpening your abilities and stepping into the kind of strength only a few ever achieve. And that shift, that transformation from fear to familiarity, is what makes you unstoppable. If you want to turn hard work into something your brain obeys without hesitation, you must create a ritual so powerful that it becomes part of your identity. People depend on motivation because they have no structure. They wait for inspiration. They wait for the perfect moment. They wait for energy. But a Machiavellian mind cannot rely on such unstable forces. Power belongs to the person who acts, not the one who waits. And the most reliable way to act consistently is through ritual. Daily, repeated, deliberate actions that leave no room for negotiation. When you create a ritual, you are telling your brain, this is what we do now. Not occasionally. Not when it feels right. Every day. The mind is very simple. It follows patterns. It follows repetition. If you repeat something long enough, your brain stops questioning it. It stops resisting. It stops debating. It just executes. This is why soldiers wake at the same time, why monks follow the same schedule, why leaders throughout history built their lives on routines. Ritual strips away uncertainty. It eliminates the mental chaos that weakens your willpower. Most people fail not because the work is too hard, but because they allow themselves too many decisions. They wake up and think, should I work today? Should I rest? Should I try? Should I wait? Every question becomes an escape route. Every decision becomes a chance to retreat. But when you build a ritual, the decision is already made. Your brain has no alternative path. The moment your day begins, your ritual takes control. You move like a strategist following a battle plan, not a wanderer following emotions. Imagine waking up and your first action is already determined. You do not think. You do not hesitate. You simply execute the first step of your ritual. And that first step leads to the next, and then the next, until your body and mind are fully engaged in your work. This is how true discipline is built, not through force, but through structure. Ritual becomes your unseen commander, guiding you with precision and consistency. Over time, something remarkable happens. The ritual becomes comforting. It becomes grounding. It becomes a part of who you are. You begin to rely on it the same way others rely on pleasure or distraction. Your ritual becomes a source of stability, a mental stronghold that keeps you steady even when life becomes chaotic. And when your work is connected to this ritual, your brain begins to associate effort with certainty, with order, with identity. People think discipline is about pushing yourself every day. But the truth is, discipline is strongest when you no longer need to push. When the action has become so deeply ingrained that not doing it feels wrong, unnatural, out of character. That is the level you must aim for. When your ritual is so strong that your brain automatically returns to it, even when you are tired, even when you are stressed, even when you feel no motivation at all. Machiavelli believed that rulers must control their environment if they wish to control their destiny. Your ritual is the environment you create for yourself. It is the invisible kingdom over which you hold absolute power. In that kingdom, your habits become your guards, your discipline becomes your general, and your routine becomes the law that shapes your future. And the more strictly you follow that law, the more naturally your mind submits to it, until hard work no longer feels like a choice. It feels like a part of your nature. There is a power that very few people ever discover, a power so transformative that once you feel it, you will never return to your old ways. It is the satisfaction of surpassing your former self. Most people compare themselves to others, chasing validation, chasing approval, chasing recognition from strangers who don't care about their growth. But that is a fool's pursuit. A Machiavellian mind does not measure itself by the standards of the crowd. It measures itself against its past weakness. The only enemy worth defeating is the version of you that existed yesterday, When you begin to view hard work as a way to humiliate your former self, everything changes. Suddenly, discipline becomes a form of revenge. Your progress becomes a weapon. Every improvement becomes a strike against the part of you that once doubted, feared, hesitated, or surrendered. This mindset is powerful because it ignites a kind of personal warfare inside you. You are no longer working for approval or applause. You are working to conquer the parts of yourself that once held you prisoner. Think back to the times you ran from difficulty, the times you gave up, the times you chose comfort over ambition. Those moments created a version of you defined by weakness, by excuses, by limitations. But now, every day you choose effort, every day you push through discomfort, you strike a blow against that old identity. And the satisfaction of that victory is something your brain learns to crave. When you witness yourself evolve, when you see yourself becoming sharper, stronger, more disciplined, you begin to enjoy the work that produces that transformation. Most people never experience this feeling because they spend their lives avoiding anything that makes them uncomfortable. They never push far enough to witness their potential. They never push long enough to see results. They never push consistently enough to form a new identity. Their old self remains in control, a tyrant that rules their habits with fear and laziness. But once you defeat that tyrant, even in small ways, you taste a sense of power that becomes addictive. And that addiction is what rewires your brain. It begins to hunger for the challenge that reshapes you. There is a moment in growth when you realize that the pain you once feared is actually the signal of your evolution. A moment when you start to look back and see how far you've come, and you no longer identify with the old version of you. You feel a sense of superiority, not over others, but over the weakness you once accepted. And that internal dominance is the source of true confidence. Confidence that is earned, not imagined. Confidence that is built through work, not borrowed from empty affirmations. When your results start to change, your standards change with them. You stop tolerating the habits that once held you back. You stop speaking the language of excuses. You stop making choices that align with the person you used to be. You rise into a new identity, one defined by discipline, ambition, and control. And with that rise comes humility, but also an unshakable pride, because you built this version of yourself with your own hands. Your brain learns to associate hard work with transformation. It learns that the effort you invest is directly connected to the power you gain. And this connection becomes so strong that you start seeking out challenges instead of avoiding them. You want to grow. You want to improve. You want to see just how far beyond your past self you can go. Because once you taste the victory of defeating your old identity, you will never again tolerate being anything less than the strongest version of yourself. In the end, the truth is brutally simple. Your mind can be your greatest ally or your most cunning enemy. Most people live their entire lives ruled by comfort, controlled by fear, enslaved by their own habits. They never rise, not because they lack potential, but because they never train their mind to desire the grind that builds power. But you, if you understand everything we've uncovered, are no longer one of them. You now know that hard work is not a punishment. It is a forge. It is a sharpening stone. It is the battlefield where you conquer the weaker versions of yourself. A Machiavellian mind does not wait for permission to grow. It does not negotiate with laziness or depend on motivation. It chooses discipline as a strategy, discomfort as a teacher, and repetition as a weapon. And the moment you train your brain to find meaning, pride, and identity in the struggle, you become unstoppable. Not because the world gets easier, but because you become stronger, colder, sharper, more focused. Every day from this point forward, you face a choice. You can return to the man you were, hesitant, uncertain, ruled by impulses. Or you can step fully into the man you are becoming, relentless, disciplined, forged through effort. The path is not easy, but it is the only path that leads to power, respect, and self-mastery. So train your mind, enjoy the grind, embrace the challenge. Because the person who learns to love hard work is the person who eventually rules over those who fear it.